I'll speak a little bit for the camera too. So my name is John.
And I'm Irene.
And we've been married 20 years. And we've been together 24 years. We have 4 children from 17 years old to 4 years old. And we were just born again in 2021, so just 2 years ago. And exactly 1 year after my wife and then my 2 older kids were born again, because I came to faith first 5 months before, God led us to leave everything, our home, everything we owned, and to go on the road. So in July of 2022, we're living in Italy, and we left our apartment, we sold and gave away everything, and by the end of that month, we got in our car and said, God, use us, lead us, and He's been faithful. We've done almost 50,000 kilometers in the last 14 months. Our first year, God really kept us in the South Mediterranean between Italy, Portugal, and Spain, multiple times back and forth between these countries. And He really started growing us, but also putting us in more, what I would call more complex, more difficult situations. So when we first started, we were really chasing the one. We would drive however many hours it would take to reach the one, and we still do that. But after a while, the Lord sent us into churches. And we walk into churches and we're like, God, what do you want us to do here? Maybe they preach a little bit different doctrine. We see some people aren't truly free, but we're praying, God, what do you want us to do? And so as we moved through all these places and ways that God led us, He would constantly speak to us and He would move us around. Sometimes we would spend 4 months in a country, not always in the same city or in the same region. Other times we'd spend just a week in a country and move on. But it's been a really amazing life. And just want to share, we really feel this is a season for us. We're in our 2nd year of that season. And you'll understand why, but I really feel one of the main reasons why God led us into the harvest, besides the fact that it's biblical and we're called to do that as well, but for us, for our family, I really feel that was a point of healing, restoring as well, because when you live in the same home and you have your normal routine, although you're with your family, normal life gets in the way, and your kids can just be in their room most of the day or be out with their friends. But now you're stuck in a car. Sometimes you sleep only one night one place. The next morning you have to pack the car again and be on the road again. And really, we're encouraging also the children to pray. What do you hear from God? Is God speaking to you? Because sometimes He does speak through the children. And we're also teaching the children, if something bothers you, you don't like the place we're staying, you don't like the country or the city we're in, have you prayed about it? Has God shown you something different where we need to go? Because now we're living a life where if our children come to us, the 2 older ones at least, not the 7 and the 4-year-old, but the 2 older ones, we're really telling them, well, tell us what God is showing you and we'll go where God is telling you. You know, we're open. It doesn't matter what age you are. And it's also been a season where He's bringing up those sore points in our family that we need to focus on and restore. Because when you're living on the road, it can be a little bit challenging, right? There is no normal routine. And, you know, sometimes everyone has their own mattress to sleep on, and other times we're all cramped in an attic and, you know, sleeping on the floor. Sometimes we've even slept in our car, just kind of laying in the seats. But it's really been incredible. I would say when we first came to faith and we heard all these testimonies from our brothers and sisters, we're like, wow, that's so incredible, so incredible. But really in the first year of us being out on the road, I look back and I'm like, wow, we have these testimonies now. God is ready to use each and every one of you, no matter how intelligent you are or how skilled you are or how much you think you know the Bible or don't know the Bible. He's just waiting for workers to say, use me, and he'll use you. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So we've had a really incredible year, and we're really excited about this next year. And we've also seen that it's really important that we spend time ministering within the body as much as finding the lost. And sometimes more of our focus has been in building up and helping, other members of the body. And God's been really using us in a lot of relationships and with other marriages that maybe are on the verge of breaking down, even when both the husband and wife are following Jesus. So how did we get to this point? Only 2 years ago, and then only 1 year ago where we wanted to leave everything. So where did it start? This is a story that kind of touches everything that the Bible talks about: persistent prayer, God's faithfulness, faithfulness in marriage, the deception and what happens when we live in sin. And there's other points I just don't remember right now, but I'll touch them. So both Irene and I are immigrants to America. I was born in Egypt to Greek and Egyptian parents, and when I was very young, my family moved to the United States.
And I was born in Greece, but when I was about 10 years old, I moved to America.
So we had a traditional American life, middle-class life, but my parents were Greek Orthodox and Coptic Orthodox. They grew up in these traditional churches, and they were very religious from that perspective. Religious there, in that sense, really means that you go to church every Sunday and you wear your best clothes and you behave and you learn the rituals of the church, like when to stand, when to sit, when to kneel. And so I grew up like baptized as a baby, really believing in God, really wanting to be a good person, and I thought I was, because there was no real explanation of sin. There was no explanation of salvation. There was really no explanation of anything other than every year we talk about Jesus' birth, Jesus' death, his resurrection, and his ascension, and it'd be kind of on repeat mode every year, right? That's the core of these traditional churches, is just to focus on Jesus, as a baby, and his death, the resurrection, and ascension. So to fast forward a little bit, then I finished university, and really I want to share something that maybe is encouraging to all of you, that we see now, after we're born again, that God is with us from the very beginning, okay? God is with us. Doesn't mean we're listening. It doesn't mean we even know he's there, but he's there. He's knocking at our door from the minute we're born, and he's trying to reach us. And I saw this. I look back even on how Irene and I met. I had graduated university and wanted to go down a different career path, to travel, work for the airlines, not really do my studies in engineering. And the Saturday before Christmas, I got a phone call from an aerospace company. And they called me and said, hey, we got your CV from the university website, and we'd like to see if you're interested in a job. And I said, great, can I interview? So I'm asking them, can I interview? They're like, no, we don't have time. Can I come visit? No, we don't have time. And this was Saturday. They said, can we send you some papers? On Monday, I received an express envelope with a job offer. I never applied to this company. I never applied to this job, but I never applied anywhere in this company. It's a large company, like almost 150,000 employees all over the world. And you would think like, oh, maybe you applied for a job A here and they found you to, a better fit for job B. But it wasn't even that. Like, I was nowhere in their system. And I accepted that job, and it moved me exactly where Irene was living. And the first thing I did when I got there was I looked for a local Greek church, not because I wanted to go to church, but when you're in the Orthodox Church, it's part of your identity. It's part of your community. You know, you're looking for others of your same background and things like that. And I met Irene's father, and a month later, he invited me over to their house. And I met Irene's mother and her younger sister, and for over an hour, we're sitting there and talking, but no sight of Irene. I had never seen Irene before.
I thought my dad invited some old guy from church. So I said, I'm not coming down.
I was 23, old guy from church. But her dad, okay, so her parents didn't speak very good English, and they had a little bit of a history that when they met Greeks that were passing through the area, they would invite them over to speak Greek together, right? But then she came downstairs, and where we were sitting, you could see the steps. And when I saw her, I immediately had this thought. I'm like, you're going to marry her. And I was like, John, that's a great idea. Yeah, that's really good. She's super beautiful. Yeah. And before I moved there, I really just wanted to work and leave. It was, it wasn't the ideal location in America where I wanted to live. And so
You weren't even looking for a girlfriend.
I didn't even want a girlfriend. Yeah, I actually said these words. I said, I don't want a girlfriend. I just want to go work. I want to get my experience, and I want to get out of this city as fast as possible and move to a big city. I was kind of a big city boy, and this was a small town. And I didn't think even once that was God's voice, right? Because I had no idea that God speaks to you like that. So, and then...
But for me, when I saw him, when I finally came downstairs, I heard the same voice telling me that I'm going to marry him. Wow. And I was 19 at the time, so it wasn't even on my radar. But without knowing it was God, I knew that was God's voice. It was really, really special.
So God was with us. He led us together. And the enemy was trying to dissuade me from even accepting that job, from going there. It's really incredible. I said to my fellow classmates, they're like, John, what are you going to do? We're going to do this and we're going to do that. And I said, I don't know, but I don't want to move to this state. So the state was Alabama. And I don't know why I said those words. But I literally said, I don't want to move to Alabama. And it's a strange thing to say to your classmates because, they're probably looking at me like, who cares? But that's where I got the job. And to be honest, when the people called me and said the job is in Alabama, I mean, there was silence on the phone from my end. They were like, hello. I was like, I really didn't want to go there. Alabama. She used to talk really Southern. I had a hard time understanding her English. We came together. We lived in sin. We didn't know. We didn't know about this, but we knew that we were going to be married, and so we were together 4 years, engaged 2 of those years. I had a good life. I worked for a really good engineering company. I was moving up in the company. We always had a nice home. We started having children. We had the American dream, from that perspective. And but something was broken inside of me. And for me, no matter how much I worked, how many hours I put in the office, when I came home, my escape was video games. I would go directly to any room that there was a computer, and I would get online, and I would play for hours, sometimes till 2, 3 in the morning. 4. Okay, don't exaggerate. I mean, 2 in the morning is okay. Yeah. I'll say 10 hours, she'll say 12, it's okay. Yeah. And so, even on the weekends, that's the only thing I wanted to do. I really wanted to detach from this world. I just didn't want to be here. It's like, I didn't want to face reality. I didn't want to face reality of what was happening in our lives. I didn't want to face reality of what's happening at work. Nothing. But going in that video game, I could just be a mindless person, just clicking and playing. And I will tell you, I've never done drugs and I've never been like addicted to alcohol, but the effects of playing video games for me is the same as if I was drunk or high on drugs. Because when I would come off of that computer, my behavior was completely erratic. If I heard small noises, I would get really crazy. And we had kids, and our kids are not quiet. I mean, their normal volume is really high. You know, they have high-pitched voices, they screaming, they cry for no reason. And so I would yell a lot. And also my behavior with Irene, I had a tendency to always speak to her and put her down. So she would speak to me about the day, about what we needed to do or where we needed to go or whatever it was, normal life. And every response came back like, well, of course, that's a stupid question. I mean, why would you even ask me that? And it was just constant. It was like constant, like almost like I was being attacked. So my responses were always, down, down, down. And I was a master at not being able to take the blame for anything, right? I mean, if I spilled this cup of tea right here, I'd find a way to blame Irene, Why didn't you catch it? Why isn't your hand there watching the tea, right? Mm-hmm. It was in my nature, that manipulation, but it was all driven back from these video games. And that's why I tell you, when I hear people's testimonies of drugs and alcohol, it's the same effect. I was in this, this was huge veil over me that I didn't even see what I was doing. I had no compassion or sympathy. I felt nothing. I didn't even feel wrong for how I treated her. It didn't matter if she cried. It didn't matter how she acted. I had no reaction. And our lives continued like this. But to me, I had the world's view of marriage. I never cheated on my wife. I never hit my wife. I have a good job. I'm not lazy. We have a beautiful house. We had a car. We never worried about money. What else do we need? And that was the world I was living in. And so, after our second child, so I want to say about 10
By
years.
the time he was 2, I guess.
2010.
Mm-hmm.
Married. So we've been together 11 years and married 7 years now. So Irene has been putting up with this for almost 7 years. And
2, maybe longer, yeah. So at this point, the more our marriage continues, he's just absent. And he doesn't even realize. I mean, he's physically there, but he's never there. We're eating alone. We're going to places alone. He's never there. And on top of that, he's also verbally and emotionally abusive. Anytime we even have company at home, he's like, well, why'd you make that? Or why'd you do it like that? Or that's not good. Or anyways, it was really hard. And also having to put on 2 faces. One for your children, because you don't want them to see that their dad isn't present. But also that I knew in my heart somehow that the guy was still there somewhere inside. And I knew that God would bring him back. And I was always praying that God would bring him back. And I said that one day when he does, I don't want him to have that severed relationship with his kids. So, and then also putting the front with our friends and our family for them not to see what's going on or how he truly was at home. So it was exhausting. So then I started making deals with God. And I said, okay, God, I give it 5 years. But if I don't get my husband back, and at this point it's 2012, I think, I can't do this anymore.
Yeah, maybe you can talk about a little bit how, we both came from this Greek Orthodox background. They don't teach you how to pray. They don't teach you how to talk to God. They teach you that come to the priest. The priest is the mediator, and everything you do, whether you sin, whether you want to be more holy, whatever it is in your life, even it's very similar to the Old Testament. Even when your baby is born, 40 days after, you bring the baby as a entrance into the church, and they have all these rituals. And so for me, I had no concept of even talking to God or even praying. But Irene had...
I knew he was with me. I didn't know he could speak to God, but I knew he could hear me somehow. I don't know. Even though the church teaches you need to pray only to the dead saints, and if you pray to God, it has to be the pre-written prayers of the church. I was somehow talking to him, and I knew that he could hear me.
Yeah, I forgot that part. We had icons of dead saints in our in our house, and very used to when you enter the church, lighting candles and kissing those icons, and praying to Mary and other people. So, but God was with us, and He was guiding our life. And so Irene prayed this, and then a year later, my company sent me to Italy, and my gaming slowed down. And you would think it's because of the espressos or the good pasta, but really it was because the internet was really, really bad, and I couldn't play online for a lot, Well, I found another. But I found something else. And many of you might not think about this, but when I arrived in Italy in 2013, I was 95 kilos. And for me, that's a really heavy weight. I mean, I was really a plumpy guy, and, shirt kind of bursting open. And I started getting fit. And then I got into cycling. And so cycling became my new idol. And so what I would do is on the weekends, because I would work long hours during the week, and on the weekends when it was family time, I'd be like, see you, I'm going to go out for a bike ride, 3, 4, 5 hours, sometimes Saturday and Sunday. But in my mind, it was like, oh, I'm doing something healthy. I'm doing something good. But again, you see, the enemy was keeping me away from the family.
And you got more prideful during that time.
Yeah. Is it possible?
So you got meaner, yeah.
Is it possible? Okay. Yeah, because, the more confident you feel about yourself,
it's more all about you, yeah.
Yeah, it was always a selfish desire constantly. Everything was about me and my life. What can I do for my life? I didn't take care of the kids. I don't think I changed diapers. I didn't help in the house. I didn't do dishes. I don't know what I did.
You sat there and you
not
played.
Much. I played, or I went cycling. So here's what happens. And Irene, like 1 year before your deal with God, so the 4th year?
No, it was my last year because your assignment got extended.
Yeah, so it was her last year of the 5-year deal. And Irene never told me about these deals with God, or I'm sure in our arguments, she was probably like, why do you want to stay married to me if you're treating me this way? But again, it wasn't sinking in. It was like talking to a wall. I didn't get it. I was like, oh, no, don't worry. We have a good life. And something in my head was justifying that, no, you're doing good. You're perfect. But, you want to say?
So at the end of the year, we were supposed to move back to Seattle. And I'm like, okay, I'll start looking for jobs. At this point, I don't know what else to do, but we have to separate when we go back because things aren't getting better. They're getting worse. And I found out I was pregnant.
With our third?
With our third child. I was done at 2. I was very, very upset. And I contemplated not having the child anymore. Even though I didn't know it was wrong before God to even want an abortion, I really felt that spiritual struggle inside. Because I said, I can't do this on my own again and now have 3 kids. It took me a couple of days and I finally told John, but to my surprise, he was excited. And I'm like, you don't even like the first 2 we have. Why do you want a third one? So we decided to keep him. And as soon as our child was born, we ended up going back to Seattle.
Yeah, for me, raising kids was easy. I mean, I didn't really have to do much. So, and I love the idea of a large family. Something inside of me was like, yeah, I want a large family. So we moved back to America, and I had a really good job still. I really enjoyed my work, but something inside of me, it was like a bigger hole was there now that I'm back in America. And I decided after a few months back in the US, I said, you know what? I've been with my company almost 19 years, so I've moved up. done a lot of good work, had a good position. I was like, I'm done. I'm done with America. I'm done with the corporate rat race, chasing jobs, chasing promotions, chasing titles. And I just want to move back to southern Italy. I want to buy a small farm with olive trees. And I just want to enjoy life. So I told Irene.
6 months after our international move to Seattle.
Yeah, I said, I have a great idea. I'm going to quit. And we're going to move back to Italy. You're going to homeschool. I'm going to be a farmer.
Yeah. That started huge. I can't even explain to you what was going through my head. It was completely shocking. And both of our families at this point are like, you can't let him do this. He's going to destroy your family. He's going to destroy his career. You can't. But inside of me, I kept thinking, if this is what it's going to take to make him happy, I just need to go for it because I just want him back. Because at this point, our life is just getting worse and worse.
And I really see that these moves was God as well. Because one big thing that happened to me when I first moved to Italy was we were in the South and life is slow there. You cannot make anything move fast. I mean, you can push, it doesn't move, really. You have to learn to operate at their pace. It is just so slow. And I had to learn to slow down, both in my work life and in my family life. And then now I see God was also showing me the importance of family. We met some local Italians, and almost from the first day they met us, we met them on the streets, not through any acquaintances, but they're like, come over our house on Sunday. We get together at our farmhouse and we eat together every Sunday. And it was like 4 generations of family eating together, not only one Sunday a month, not only one Sunday a year, every Sunday. And all the kids and all the cousins. And I think some of that, I was missing some of that. And I felt family. And when I went back to America, I was like, yeah, you meet your neighbors. And for the whole year, they'll tell you, hey, let's get together. Yeah, let's have a coffee sometime. Next week, oh yeah, we got to get together. Let's have some coffee sometime. And it's a different lifestyle, right? In one side, they're completely open and they make you family. And the other side, we're very superficial and we just talk to each other with no real meaning to connect. And I also feel, I don't know, maybe it was God also having this desire to leave this life where I'm chasing job, where I'm chasing money, where I'm chasing titles, and to really just go be a farmer. But soon I would realize it's not a farmer of food, but maybe be like a farmer of men eventually. So we moved to Italy, and this is how many years we've been married now? 14 years married. And things got worse. So I became really stressed about money, even though we had several years of reserves to live on. I didn't know what to do. I went from a life where I knew everything, I had everything in order, and a life where my normal job was to plan, to assess the risk, to know 5 years ahead of time what we were supposed to do, to just living in South Italy like, the famous word there is domani. It means tomorrow, but it doesn't mean tomorrow. If you ask someone, hey, can you come check my electrical panel? Yeah, the electrician will tell you domani. And so domani comes, and you're calling him, and you're like, hey, why aren't you here? Yeah, it doesn't mean tomorrow. It means just not today. Just, I'm come sometime in the future. And that's how everyone operates in the South, right? Oh, wow, it's crazy. It's crazy. But it's beautiful at the same time, right? Is this how Argentinians are?
She loves it.
Yeah, she loves it. It's beautiful at the same time, right, Maria? It's really nice. So God closed every door for us to find a farm. We sold everything. We moved to Italy on our own. And like I said, God closed every door over that year for us to find a good farm. And somehow God led us out of the south into the north of Italy. And during that time, we talked about, you want to, about?
Yeah, so started becoming more mean and more distant during this time, because he also became, I believe, more depressed during this time. And I was just looking at my kids, and I said, the first two, at least they were kind of sheltered. They grew up together. But now leaving our third one on his own, there's such a huge age gap. I can't just let him be by himself. And so we talked about having our fourth. And
So we're moving. Irene is pregnant with our fourth. And during this pregnancy, she got really sick. And this is where almost the lowest point in our whole marriage gets to. And Irene is sick during her pregnancy with something we couldn't figure out what it was.
Yeah, 11 different doctors could not diagnose.
And after she gave birth, it's still, the whole period that she was sick was almost 2 years, if not more. And, but for me, I didn't know what to do. I felt helpless, and I was consumed in my own life where everything that happened around me, it was always about me. How does this affect my life now? What if Irene never gets better? What if she dies? All these thoughts coming into my head, and I became paralyzed to a point, not physically, but just I didn't know what to do. So I did nothing. So I think after the baby was born, the disease really took a toll on Irene. We don't know if it was some type of cancer or what, but her whole body was
falling apart.
Yeah, her organs were starting not to function well. Her heartbeat was irregular. She was susceptible to many different viruses and diseases.
Because my skin was falling off every half hour. Yeah, I couldn't regulate the, electrolytes?
Yeah.
So I was always cold, always shivering. I was red from the inside out. My heart couldn't pump correctly. And because I was losing so much skin, I had to shower every, at least 6 times a day just to be able to wear clothes. Otherwise, I couldn't function. And I had a baby and 3 other kids to take care of.
4. I'm your 4th other
Yeah.
kid.
And, sorry, this part always gets me. I looked like I was clawed by a tiger. My whole skin was raw everywhere, and my older 2 kids had to be the ones that took care of me and put lotion on me, because he was completely distant and angry by that point. Yeah. So I just remember just falling in the shower and just praying to God for him to heal me, even though I didn't know he could heal yet. And I said, if you can't heal me, at least strengthen me one more day. Because I wanted to jump off the balcony, because I said, if this is my life now, I don't want to exist. But then this thought came of, who are you going to leave your kids to? Because he's going to destroy them, and then he's going to destroy himself. So I said, God, just please strengthen me. But when I'm healed, I'm done. Like, I'm done. I can't do this roller coaster rides anymore. At this point, he's broken almost every vow.
Yeah, so what happened? So then we're in the COVID period. I haven't worked for 2 years, and the only job I could find in this sector that I work in was through some connections in America. So we're living in Italy, and I would go and travel to America every couple months, stay there, work, and then come back to Italy and back and forth. And during this time, it was good because for Irene, right, it was more peaceful for her at home because I'm not around.
I didn't have to walk on eggshells, yeah.
And for me, I started building up my confidence again because I was working again. And but Irene, towards the end of 2020, she started getting healed, right? Mm-hmm. And it's a different testimony, but she started getting healed. And in January of 2021, I was home for Christmas before, and I was going back for another business trip. And I thought, again, our life is okay. Irene's getting healed. Yeah, life is good still. And I left. And
you left. And a couple of weeks prior, there was also an event where he actually physically took up our son and just kind of threw him on the floor and was yelling at him. And I knew that his business trip was coming up 2 weeks later. And as soon as he left, I told God, that's it. As soon as he comes back in February, I'm done. I'm out. I don't care how I'm going to do this. Oh, maybe I should say also at this point, so my engagement ring, I hadn't been wearing for about 12 years at this point, and it was always my backup. If I had to leave, I could just sell it, and at least it would get us started. And I'm saying that because you'll see a testimony about it later.
Did you say reset?
Yeah, I told God, no more, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm leaving, going to America on a business trip. I'm writing Irene every couple of days. I'm thinking, yeah, life is normal. I had no idea she had a deal with God or anything going on, right, in our marriage. But something happened on that trip. And like I said, I always believed in God. I was really drawn to Christian movies. During my walk, I thought I wanted a new religion. I was like, I'm looking for a new religion. I'm looking for something more lively, maybe like those Baptists in the movies that you see. They're all crazy and, running around, and they seem to have some kind of life in their church. And but never took any action on it. I even had conversations with coworkers that, like, maybe I need to go to a Bible school. Yeah, I'd like to learn the Bible more. So I didn't have this separation from God. I just had no idea what I was looking for. And that trip, something amazing happened. And really I hope this highlights really what it means about a person of peace, because I didn't know this term during this period, but it really speaks to me now, because I was working in Florida, and a coworker offered for me to stay at his house so I wouldn't have to stay in hotels. And he was going through a divorce. He's not a believer. He had a new girlfriend already, and he wanted the couple next door to come over and meet his new girlfriend, because him and his wife used to be really good friends with them, but now the wife is out of the picture, and he wants the husband and wife to meet his new girlfriend. And they come over late that night, and I'm sitting with them just to be polite. And my buddy and his girlfriend had been drinking too much. And so as soon as his friends come over, they're apologizing, like, yeah, we really got to go to bed. Sorry, we weren't expecting to drink, but it happened. And the woman from next door, she looks at him and says, yeah, don't worry, I have Jesus in my heart. That's all she said, but it was like someone shocked my whole body. I mean, those words, just that alone, I started having so many questions, like, why did she say that? Like, what religion is she? Like, that is the weirdest response I have ever heard from anybody, right? If I'm like, hey, Bobby, man, I'm sorry, I'm so tired. I had a little too much to drink today. Let's hang out another time. You don't respond, I have Jesus in my heart. It's not normal. But so I stayed with her and her husband after, just to talk and ask her something. I'm like, I was drawn to her. I was like, I can't stop looking at her. I'm like, she's just, yeah. Like I said, my body was shocked at that moment. And so I start talking to her and her husband, and I'm like, what religion are you? And this is a really important point. God makes it so personal when he draws us to him. So personal. I mean, so many things happen. So the first thing she says to me is like, well, I'm from New York, but I'm Italian. And I'm like, oh, I love Italy. I've lived there for so many years, and we've had 2 children born there. I quit my job and I moved there. Yeah, oh, great. So I'm really hooked now. And she grew up in the Lutheran church, and excuse me, her parents divorced, and she was a really bad girl, drugs, alcohol, partying, and also her brother did the same. And she told me that her brother had sold drugs and went to jail, and he got saved in jail by a discipleship making ministry. And, excuse me, and that I really needed to meet him, because through him, she was also saved. And so a few days later, excuse me, this part right now is scratching my, yeah, right? And a few days later, I go to his house, to their house, they're right next door. And we start talking, and I share my story, like, yeah, I'm Greek Orthodox, I was baptized as a baby, I'm looking for a different religion, and yeah, this sounds new for me. And he's telling me about repentance and then that I have to be baptized. And I'm like, whoa, I was baptized already. Why do I have to be baptized again? Okay, we keep going. He opens the Bible and he says, so let's look at the book of Acts. John, do you know the book of Acts? And I'm like, yeah, I can see that's in the Bible, but yeah, okay. Seems like one of those strange books that we never supposed to read, but all right, there's the book of Acts. And he's really walking through, what it means to be a disciple and what is the gospel through the book of Acts. But it was a lot of information for me. And he saw that. I mean, we spoke for over 2 hours, but I was curious. I was asking questions. I was really like, wow, this sounds really interesting. He says, John, tonight we have a Bible study in my house. Come over. I was like, okay, why not? I go there and they start playing worship music. I'd never heard worship before. I'd heard Christian music, but I'd never heard really worship. And all of a sudden, a couple of the people are standing up and walking around and their hands in the air and they're talking to themselves. And I'm looking around like, oh, that's really strange. What are these guys doing? I mean, if you have ever walked into a traditional Catholic church or a Greek Orthodox church, whoa. I mean, it's like someone is like doing breakdancing in the middle of the church if they're doing this, right? So I'm sitting in my chair like this. And I was like, okay. And at that moment, I start crying. It just, something comes over me and I can't stop crying. And Irene says that,
Oh yeah, if you knew John before, I used to call him the robot because he had no emotion, no compassion, no empathy, no emotions.
and I start feeling this strong sensation over my heart, almost like fizzing water, like bubbling over my heart. And I'm like, my heart's going faster and I'm crying and I'm like, what's going on? And worship finishes. And then the guy, his name is Adam, he starts the Bible study and he says, hey, tonight we're going to talk about how to pray. And 4 years ago, when I quit my job and I told my wife we're going to move to Italy, I started having these thoughts that I need to learn how to pray. I need to teach my children how to pray, because if they're ever in trouble, they need to know God. And they're not going to learn God through the church, but they need to learn to pray to God. And over those 4 years, I'd have this thought, it would go away. I never did anything about it. I just tell it came and left. And I thought it was my own thought. So much that I even forgot I had those thoughts. Never told anyone about these thoughts. And that night, he says, we're going to talk about how to pray. And different people in the Bible study started sharing testimonies of how they just can't wait to go spend time alone with God, close their door and just be hours with him, talking with him. And they were crying, sharing, these testimonies. And it was really touching me. And they were sharing how easy it is to pray, one after the other, after the other. And I was just like, yeah, this is great. Wow, it's so easy to pray. I didn't know. I go home and Irene is in Italy. I write to her and I said, this is what we've been looking for. This is it. And I don't know what I said to you exactly. But at the same time, also something inside of me said, hey, when I get back to Italy, we need to talk about our marriage. And that was me alone. It wasn't anything she said. It was just like that veil was lifted off of my eyes now. I started seeing that I wasn't that guy, the good guy anymore.
But I knew that if he came back, I couldn't face him and tell him everything that happened. So I decided to do it over Telegram of the past 20 years.
She remembers everything. Yeah. Bobby, take notes. Doesn't matter if it happened 20 years ago. Wow. So she started writing me, I think, and it was, we have probably between each other almost 1,000 messages back and forth. But she went like, you did this, you acted this way, this is what you did to the kids, this is what you said, even like from back then. And my whole life with her, I would never read anything she wrote to me. She tried writing to me before, but I would speed read it and be like, yeah, I get the message, okay. I read these messages over and over and over again, and it was really hurtful. I was like, what kind of guy does this to their wives? What kind of father is this? This guy is despicable. This is a terrible person. I was really hating myself. And that was the start of my repentance. I didn't know it, didn't know I was repenting, but it was really like the Bible says, I hated my sin so much. And I started responding to her with such guilt and shame and really accepting my sin. It was my fault. Everything I did was my fault. How could I have done this? How could you have put up with me? And now I read the messages, I'm like, I don't even know how I wrote these. I mean, it was really, had to have been Holy Spirit there. And it took over a week. We went back and forth. And in this time, I'm meeting with the brother and the sister that we spoke about before. And I'm like, guys, do you believe I did this? And I did that? And they're just, so I had this kind of unorganized repentance talk, right? It was directly with my wife, and then in a way with this brother and sister. And a week later, this is why God makes it personal. I'd been searching, all the world-renowned experts on baptism. Dr. Google, you guys know him? So I'd been like, do I need to be baptized again? I was baptized as a baby. I don't need to be baptized. And, I got every answer that you can imagine. And so I'm about to leave to go back to Italy, and I meet this sister again. We're sitting at dinner with her husband, and I don't know if you know people from New York, but they are bold and they are direct. And so we sit down at dinner. I'm next to her husband. She's across from me, and she literally leaps across the table and is like, are you going to get baptized? And I'm jumping my seat. I'm like, yeah, okay. Yeah, let's do it. And like, not even before I finish saying yes, she's already on the phone. She calls her brother, and they're organized everything. They're like, yeah, we have Bible study tonight. We'll finish early. We'll go to mom's house. She has a pool. Yeah, everything is set. So I'm standing in the water now that evening, and they ask me before I'm baptized, is there anything I want to say? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to see my wife in a few days, and I don't want to forget everything I've done, every way I've treated her. I want her to see the sorrow in me. I want her to see the shame and the guilt I have, because I'm going to show her that I'm going to make it right now. And they talk to me that, oh, God will set you free from this, but I don't understand what that means. So I'm like, okay, whatever you say. And I'm baptized, and they pray for me, and I'm coming out of the water, and I stop, and I'm like scratching my head like, what? Something just happened. And all that guilt and shame, all that heaviness completely just went. It lifted off of me. And I was like, okay. I mean, I just felt joy instead. I didn't feel any of it anymore. And 2 more things happened, and then I'll go to Irene. And later that night, as I'm thinking about it, I don't remember exactly when this happened, but after my baptism, I started getting images of my sins. So I would get an image of a video game I used to play. And I'd be like, oh, why am I thinking of that? And the minute I would say that, it disappeared. And as it disappeared, there was such a disgust with any type of video games or apps or anything. Like, I even think I had an app on my phone still, that maybe a silly game I played with my kids. I felt like so, I say unclean about it. I had to go delete it immediately. And the same thing, there was, we didn't share it, but also pornography was part of the things I confessed to Irene. And then that image came in my mind, and the same thing, this utter disgust over it. And then God showed me other things, like between our marriage and our intimate life, also said, this isn't holy. The marriage bed has to be holy as well. And it was just, I was like, okay. I mean, I really felt it. The next morning, I'm driving. I had 2 hours to go to a business trip to another city, and I'm just driving my car. I still feel this overwhelming bubbling over my heart, and I'm just like, wow, what an amazing day. And I'm alone because it's like 6 a.m. I'm driving, barely any cars. And I'm driving, and all of a sudden, my hand goes up, and I'm like, praise Jesus. And I'm looking at my hand like, what is going on? Put my hand back on the wheel, and I was like, I couldn't stop for 2 hours. I mean, if you were driving next to me, like looking into my car, you'd be this guy raising his hand and screaming in his car. It was so strong. I couldn't stop. Yeah. But that's not the end of our marriage testimony. God really changed me. It was so powerful. I don't even know how to explain it. Yeah, I hope I explained it well because it was really amazing. And then I went home. And
I saw he was different, but now the enemy is using me more, and everything that happened in our marriage is flashing before my eyes like a movie, and I can't get it to stop. All this pain is there, but I saw he was different. So I told God, I'll take a leap of faith for you, God. But in 5 months, like by the end of the summer, if nothing changes, I can't keep doing this. It's not fair to me and it's not fair to him. But I'm going to try. It was really, really hard 5 months. In July, you had a business trip coming up again?
yeah, so I came home in February and we had an amazing time together. I was reading the Bible and watching videos, and she was reading the Bible, and we'd come in and talk about the Bible together. I mean, it was really nice. But like Irene said, this pain, and I kept telling her, no, God's going to take it away. And she's like, what?
I'm like, Lord, no.
What is that? I don't even know what that means.
Yeah.
And 2 months after I got home, the brother that baptized me had gone to a Kickstart. And even though he'd been making disciples for many, many years, there was just something about this Kickstart that kind of put it all together. He was already praying for people, doing all these things, but it was just a different way to do it. And he sends me the video link of the movie, the beginning. And I watched it and I just was like, wow. I mean, I think I ran into the living room and I just told Irene like this, oh, wow, this is so crazy. This is so amazing. This is, look at these healings and this deliverance and everything. I mean, I couldn't stop watching videos and movies about the last Reformation and how simple it was. Mm-hmm. And Irene thought I was crazy, right?
I just thought it's just another phase. I still can't see. I can't understand.
But God was moving in our life, and Irene is still making deals with God. Right? But 5 months later, I'm like, I want you guys to come to America with me. I want you to meet this Italian family that baptized me. And then, was it me that found the Kickstarter, or you?
I did.
Then and I said, let's make it happen. Let's all go to America together, to Florida. And Irene said, oh, by the way, near you, there's going to be a Kickstart. And you said, let's go.
No, you said.
I said, yeah, let's go. Maybe you want to be baptized there or something. Well, basically, we went to go make our tickets and realized that one of our kids' passports had been already expired. It's during COVID. All the embassies in Italy are closed. So I told Irene, oh, well, I guess that's not going to work. I'll go on the trip, and maybe when I come back, we can, I don't know, go to a Kickstart in another country. But God knew if I left on that trip, there would be no Irene to come back to when I came back, because the pain was really, really strong for her. And a week later, we got a newsletter from the embassy. Every month we get this newsletter because we're expats living in another country, and we never read it. It's usually just political things. And this time I opened the email up, and it said, one of the things it said is, because of COVID, if you have an expired passport, you can travel to America.
Wow.
Yeah. And I ran in, I'm like, please read this. I said, am I understanding English the right way?
Yeah.
I'm like, this has to be God.
Yeah, we knew it was God.
So yeah, we traveled with an expired passport. They stopped us a little bit, you guys, you Dutch people. In Amsterdam, you gave us some hard time, but it's okay. we almost, we squared it away. We were put to the side and had to call some people, but yeah, they let us through on an expired passport. 2 days later, and on the train to Munich, we flew out of Munich, and on the train to Munich, Irene is sitting across from me, and
I say, God, I really tried, but I don't know how to stop this, and it's not fair. When we come back from this trip, I have to tell him that we can't anymore.
Yeah, but you didn't tell me.
But I didn't tell you.
You didn't tell me this.
I didn't tell you. Yeah.
Yeah, so we arrived. 2 days later, we go to the Kickstart, and you want to take it from there?
Yeah, so we go to the Kickstart, worship starts. I'm just in tears. And then I hear the gospel for the first time. And my heart is just exploding. Everything finally makes sense. Because growing up in the Orthodox Church, they only preach to you the wrath of God. So growing up, and also with our kids when they were younger, I said, well, let's follow Jesus. I don't know who this Old Testament God is, but if we are like Jesus, if we act like Jesus, we're okay. We're going to be fine. And we'll go to heaven. But for the first time, I finally understood that God was both. And that moment that I understood, he started putting sins upon my heart. And the one thing he put that I had completely forgotten about at this point is that I even thought about getting an abortion. It really is true what it says. It's not just the action, but it's what we think, what's in our hearts. And so I went, I repented with a sister, I got baptized, and I don't know what I'm thinking is supposed to happen or not, but something feels off, and they're praying for me. At that point, I start blacking out, and I catch myself, and this joy just comes upon me. And I'm just like, thank you, Jesus, thank you, Jesus. And then I look over here, and John is standing over there. And I see him, and I'm like, oh, it's gone. Like, it's all gone. All the pain, the movie, everything is gone. It's not before my eyes anymore. And that's the beginning, beginning of our story.
That really was it.
Yeah.
And then we couldn't stop. Yeah. Our oldest daughter and oldest son also decided to repent and get baptized that same day. Yeah. And
can I say the ring now?
And you can. Yeah, and then
we got remarried.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so
2 weeks later.
So our whole life, Irene always wanted to, let's renew our vows, let's do another wedding ceremony, and I was like, that's so silly. Come on. I was like, why are we going to waste time and money on doing this thing? That was the old me. But after we were both born again now, it meant so much, and so
because we truly understood. Yeah, what the covenant was.
So we did a small little wedding ceremony, and the brother who baptized me in his house, and it was really beautiful. We said our own vows to each other, but more biblical vows, like really promising about the covenant that we were making before each other. And we got rid of our gold rings, and we got these little silicone rings, right? Just to symbolize for us a new simple life.
And another brother and sister gave it to us.
And they gave it to us. Yeah, they gave it to us as well. So.
But I still didn't wear my ring because it brought up too much pain, too many years of pain. So 1 year later, so last year we're going to the Luke 10 in America, and we said, okay, well, let's just bring it and we'll sell it when we get there. And I'm trying to sell it. This one sister says she would help me. Every door is closing. And suddenly I start hearing during the school, why don't you give it to this person? I was like, oh, okay, God. I was like, you want me to give it to them?
Because they were going to get married
Because they were thinking to get married soon. But over that next day and a half or so, that voice got more persistent. And I'm like, wait, that's not God. I don't understand. And I was out praying and one morning, and I said, God, just show me how to trust you, and show me how you are faithful, because we're about to leave our home for you. And also show me, why do I still not trust my husband fully? And at that moment, he also showed me the connection. He goes, you don't trust me fully because you don't trust him fully. You don't trust him with the deepest parts of you, the innermost parts of your heart. And then I walk up, and there's this big, giant bird cage with like 20 canaries. Yeah,
we did a Luke 10 school in America. It was in San Diego, and they did it at this ranch. And part of the ranch, they had some goats. They had all these kind of exotic birds in a really tall cage, maybe 20, 30 of them. And the little apartment we were staying at was right in front of there. And
while I'm out praying, I walk up to the front panel of this cage, and all birds simultaneously came up to the front. And suddenly I hear, look at the birds. And as soon as the verse starts, they all at the same time fly away. And I'm looking like, did anyone else see this? And I said, okay, no, it's probably a coincidence. It's not God. So I tried to do it 2 or 3 times after, but if there was maybe 1 or 2 birds, they would fly away as soon as you approach. They don't come to you. So I was like, okay, and I'm still thinking about it. So I go upstairs to look up the full verse, and I was like, wow. And then I hear God say, go get your ring. I was like, oh, no, that's not for me. No. God said, go get your ring. I was like, oh, okay. So I get my ring, and I'm holding it like this. And he said, put it on. I was like, okay, God, no, now we've gone too far. I can't put it on. You know I can't put it on. He said, put it on. The moment my ring hits right here, I hear my first promises. And simultaneously, he's showing me his first promises to me and God's first promises to us. Like, I will protect you. I will never forsake you. I'm always there. Just everything just started boom, 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 boom. And I was like, oh. And I haven't taken it off since. But now I really see why the enemy kept wanting me to give it away. And it's really just that confirmation of anytime any attacks come upon us or anything, just looking at that and saying, no, God is faithful. He is faithful. And but also, if something happens and he slips, I can trust God that he's going to guide him back. And so, God restores all things, and the enemy tries to kill. So,
And it's still a journey, right, guys?
Amen.
It's still a journey, but now with the Holy Spirit, we can act differently with each other,
Amen.
right? We can see God's guidance. We can look inside ourselves and say and understand why things are happening, and we can continue, right? So that's our story. Yeah.
Keep praying and don't give up. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Lord.
No, don't clap. Praise Jesus instead, right? Come on, praise Jesus. Nah, we did nothing. It's just,
Lord.
Amen.
yeah.